In the last couple of videos, we learned the basics of Access, and many of you may never have used Access before. So these are the basic operations of Access, and more specifically, we focused on how to connect tables, how to add tables, connect them, and how to create forms. And forms allow us to basically pull up a little bit of information and add more data entries. And as you could see, the combo boxes and all these options help to automate the process. So we basically use the graphical user interface to make this process more user friendly. Instead of typing in each cell manually, we had this nicer looking form to do that. So that was about data entry into adding more data to our database. In the next two videos, we'll cover Microsoft Access queries, which basically allow us to pull the data from the data set. And instead of, again, looking manually for specific observations, we can use a query to get the information that we need more specific and more targeted. And we'll consider queries with one table and with two tables. So let's see how to do that. All right, so we're back to Microsoft Access, and we're going to be creating queries which will give us a subset of our data based on predefined criteria. We define the criteria, and Microsoft Access shows us that data instead of reviewing the entire data set. So we can, in order to create query, go to Create, and let's use Query Design. And here, a new menu will pop up, and we want to be searching which table we want to search. Well, we're going to be searching students. So I'm going to click on students and then select add selected tables. And so we have a list of all columns in our students table here. And we need to select the columns which we want to use for subsetting the data. So let's use, say, student ID, and left click and pull it to the field, release, first name, last name, allegiance maybe, and Droid. Okay, so this is the menu here at the bottom which we will be using for creating specific requests. This overall menu is called a query. So we selected the variables that we're going to be using for subsetting our request. So the easiest way, well, in order to demonstrate how to do that, let's we can specify here the criteria. So basically what we can do is say what we want to see. We want to see those that are not droids. So type no here. Access will give you options for functions. It's not relevant here, so just type no. And then we want to see the data that fits this criteria. Basically, we set only one criteria, no droid. So everything that says yes for droid will show up. And in order to see the results, we either can click here, view and datasheet view, or you can click run. And we will see everything that is not droid. So this criteria is specified, satisfied, sorry. So let's go back to design view, and we can specify the allegiance. Say we want everyone who is in Rebel Alliance. Make sure you don't misspell that, because well, Access will not understand that. It understands only specific values. So we can hit enter. So right now we're telling Access show us everything that's Rebel Alliance and that's not droid. So let's run this, and this is what we get. So back to design view, we can say, okay, show us everything that's not droid, that's either Rebel Alliance, or, as you can see, it says or here, or what else was there? Say Galactic Empire. So now we have listed here all the students that are not droids, this condition are satisfied, and whose allegiance is either Galactic Empire or Rebel Alliance. And so this is really quickly how this works. And we can subset these data, our tables, basically based on any of these criteria that we added here. We can say subset it by last name. All T, I think we had last name like that. And if we ran that request, that's what we're gonna have here, which is obviously what we requested. Another option, we can instead of specifying our criteria, we can say, okay, Access, every time I run a request, ask me what criteria I want to enter. And we can enter manually the question for each. What is the allegiance? I hope I did not misspell that. And in square brackets, hit enter. And then if we hit run, it's gonna okay. What is the allegiance? What allegiance do you want to subset it by? Rebel Alliance. Okay, and it's gonna show us all the members of the Rebel Alliance. So again, we're not pre-typing it here. We can pre-type other criteria if we want, and then leave this basically this option open so that we can customize every time instead of retyping and retyping and retyping. You know, you got to go back and retype. Instead of that, we can just type the question, and we'll get the question will pop up every time we run the query. There are the members of Galactic Empire. So that's another option that we can use here. I also wanted to show you, as you may have noticed, there are 3 views here, and design view, datasheet view, and SQL view. So if we click on that SQL view, we're going to get some code here. It's called standard query language used by any relational database nowadays. So in this case, you can actually read it and it will make good sense to you. It says select students table in capital, student ID, then students capital first name, students capital last name, students allegiance, and students droid. This is what we did in our first step manually by using user interface. We just selected, but we could have just written this. Select this, and then from students, where, and then allegiance is equal to that. If we had a specific request there, like Galactic Empire, where students allegiance equal to Galactic Empire. So this is basically like a coding language. Instead of clicking, entering, clicking everything, you can type that command here, and the Microsoft Access will just perform the query for you. So it works really well if you can learn this language, understand how to use it, and it actually can be more efficient because you have all the steps saved here. So, and many professional users of frequent users of Microsoft Access will do that. So anyway, it's just an aside for you in case you may find it useful at some point in the future. So Windows. Still works. So okay, so that's how you run a query with one table. And let's see how we would do that with several tables. So first of all, let's save this query. Let's call it student query, because what it does, it searches our student database, student table. So save that. So now every time we can close it, every time we need to pull up a specific record, a subset of our student data set, we can double click and we set the question to, well, to be this, Galactic Empire, enter, and it's going to pull up all the members of the Galactic Empire for us. And you can specify, as you realize, any types of criteria in that specific query, and droid or not, and so on. So this is how we work with one. Let's create a query that uses two tables. So query design, and here we select tables. On the right, we add faculty and we add students. And this should be connected. And if I click on them, we can see a connection. Pull down a little bit. So let's use faculty first name, faculty last name. We can add anything we want, email, and student last name. So right now, if we set any criteria here, it's going to pull up the data from both tables. So let's see, subsetted by Sirin, which is the last name of one of the former faculty members. And we have all the records. We have student last name and all the columns from the faculty table and all the columns from the students table that we asked to be included, pulled up based on these criteria, based on the faculty last name series. So go back to design view. So another thing we can do is we can ask Access to show us the total count of students per faculty rather than giving us the last name, all the last names, all of the students. So let's remove this criteria, last name, and then let's basically go here in the menu and design and totals. And it's going to add another row here that says totals. And we don't touch any of these, but we go to last name, students, and select count. So now when we run our query, it's going to give us a count of students per faculty. Okay, that's ready. So let's run. And this gives us basically, as I said, a count of all student members by faculty. And as you can see, it can be very helpful if you're trying to plan the workload. You entering new students to the database all the time, and the workload can increase, and you can basically run this query to find out what's the workload, who can take more students. And you can use it for any kind of situation. And with quantitative variables rather than qualitative as we have here, you can do minimum, maximum, and so on, and averages and sums, as well as group by. So play with these options, and you may be able to use them in the future. It may help you a lot to save some time. So let's save this. Advising load. Advising load. This is it. So when we go here, we're going to get our results. And as we add new entries, student visits, we have more students per faculty. This is going to be updated. So this is how you create query with one table and with two tables that pulls up data from two tables. And as you can see, it can be a very quick way to summarize our data and pull up the information that we need instead of searching through the entire data set. All right, as usual, I hope you learned something new.